The stars above Erebus Prime always looked peaceful. The twin moons cast silver light over the oceans and cities shimmered under glowing domes. Children played in floating parks and traders filled the spaceports with laughter. Humanity had come far. Across the dark void, they had built worlds of light. For more than a century, the United Earth Federation had kept peace among the stars. Humans traded with alien allies, shared science, and built trust with dozens of species. They believed that the dark times of war were over. But peace, as always, was only a dream resting on fragile hope. It began quietly. A minor station near the Vega Belt stopped sending reports. It was considered normal. Communication errors happened often in deep space. A patrol ship was sent to check, but it never returned. Days later, a colony on Erebus Prime sent a message filled with static and fear. Then silence. No one understood what was happening. The Council of Worlds called it a communication disruption. People wanted to believe it. They had lived in peace too long to imagine war again. But Admiral Marcus Hale, commander of the 7th Human Fleet, felt something was wrong. He had fought in the border wars 30 years ago. He had seen what fear looked like before it spread. Sitting in the command center of his flagship, UNS Resolute, he stared at the galaxy map. Small red dots blinked where colonies had gone silent. There were too many of them now. One by one, human outposts disappeared, no messages, no survivors, not even wreckage. As if the colonies were simply erased from existence. When the Council of Worlds finally gathered to discuss it, the meeting turned into argument and panic. Representatives from other alien races spoke in circles, avoiding the truth. The Talarn ambassador said, "Perhaps humans have suffered an internal rebellion." The Vrak envoy muttered, "Maybe a natural disaster." But no one wanted to believe that something was hunting the humans. Admiral Hale listened in silence, his eyes calm but cold. He stood and faced the great chamber. "We are not losing colonies because of mistakes," he said firmly. "This is an attack. Someone or something is wiping out human life, and we are doing nothing." The Council's leader, a tall alien named Aru Keth, spoke softly. "Admiral, even if what you say is true, we cannot act without proof." Hale's voice turned sharp. "By the time we have proof, there will be no one left to save." The meeting ended without action. The council members left with polite words, but fear lingered behind their eyes. Hale returned to his ship, feeling the heavy silence of space pressing against him. Days turned into weeks. Then a broken ship drifted into Terran space, an escape vessel from Vega Station. Its hull was torn open, its engines dead. Only one survivor was found, a young technician named Rhea. Her body was weak, her eyes haunted by what she had seen. In the medical bay, she whispered to Admiral Hale, her voice trembling. They came out of the dark. Their ships were alive, breathing, and they didn't take prisoners. They just consumed everything. Hale felt a chill run through him. Who were they? She struggled to speak the word. Dravari. The name struck him like thunder. The Dravari Dominion, an ancient hostile species believed to be extinct. They had vanished centuries ago after the Great Galactic War. Every record said their worlds were destroyed, but Hale had always believed the galaxy was too big for any evil to truly die. Rhea's heart monitor went silent soon after. She had lived just long enough to warn them. The next days were filled with tension and fear. Reports came in of strange energy readings at the edge of human territory. Scout ships vanished. Civilian vessels fled toward the core worlds. The silence of the colonies became the silence of an entire frontier. In the Central Command of Earth, the president called an emergency session. Generals, scientists, and diplomats filled the room. Hale stood at the center explaining what they faced. Dravari fleets are using organic technology, he said. They grow their ships like living creatures. They absorb power from destroyed planets. Their goal is not war, it's feeding. We are their food, murmurs filled the hall. The defense minister whispered, "Can we negotiate?" Hale's reply was cold and steady. You can't negotiate with something that devours entire worlds. After hours of debate, the truth could no longer be denied. Humanity was at war again, a war they never wanted, but could not avoid. The next morning, the emergency broadcast reached every colony still alive. The Federation symbol appeared across billions of screens. Admiral Hale's face followed, calm and determined. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale of the United Earth Fleet," he began. "Many of our worlds have fallen silent. The enemy is real and they are coming for us all. But humanity will not fade quietly. We will rise as we always have. Every ship, every pilot, every worker is part of this fight. For our families, for our homes, for our future. His message ended with a line that echoed across the stars. Signal every fleet. Humanity will rise again. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. Shipyards lit up across the solar system. Old vessels were pulled from museums and refitted for battle. Workers labored without rest, driven by a mix of fear and pride. People who had never held a weapon before signed up to defend their worlds. On Mars, new war factories began producing heavy cruisers and drones. On Luna, engineers built new shield systems using alien tech. On Titan, families said goodbye to loved ones, joining the fleet. Humanity was not the strongest species in the galaxy, nor the oldest. But they had something others often forgot, an unbreakable will. Admiral Hale stood in the command bridge of the Resolute, watching the construction fleets at work. The blackness of space around them glowed with the sparks of welding lights and ship engines. His first officer, Commander Juno Ray, approached quietly. "Sir," she said, "intelligence confirms the Dravari are moving toward the outer colonies. We have maybe 2 months before they reach the inner worlds." Hale nodded. "Then we'll meet them halfway." He turned to the viewing window where Earth shone like a blue jewel below. The Council wanted proof. They'll have it soon enough, and when they see what's coming, they'll know what humans are capable of. Juno hesitated. "Do you think we can win, sir?" He gave a small smile. "We've faced extinction before. We always find a way." Far across the stars, deep in the unknown regions, the Dravari Queen stirred in her hive. Her mind stretched across the void, sensing resistance for the first time in centuries. The memories of ancient wars flickered through her mind. Wars where humans had fought harder than any other race. "They return," she whispered through the hive mind. Her massive organic ships pulsed with light as millions of creatures awakened to her call. "Then we will feed again." The silence of the fallen colonies was only the beginning. But somewhere among the cold stars, the human fleet was awakening too, stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. Humanity was no longer the prey. They were preparing to become the storm that would shake the galaxy. The news of the Dravari attack spread like a storm through human space. Across every colony, the words of Admiral Marcus Hale echoed, "Signal every fleet. Humanity will rise again." The message awakened something deep inside people. Fear turned into purpose, grief turned into fire. Every world, from the glittering cities of Mars to the icy colonies of Europa, began to prepare for war. In the great shipyards above Earth, the sky burned with the light of creation. Massive cranes moved through the blackness, assembling warships that stretched for kilometers. Engineers and builders worked side by side wearing heavy suits, their faces lit by the glow of engines being tested. Old ships were pulled from storage docks, vessels that had not flown for decades. They were cleaned, repaired, and armed again. Children of engineers who once built peaceful exploration ships now welded the armor plates of destroyers. Humanity was changing fast. Admiral Hale watched from the command deck of the UNS Resolute. His ship floated like a guardian above the blue curve of Earth. The holographic display around him showed hundreds of ships preparing to launch. Carriers, frigates, and cruisers, some old, some new, all flying the same Silver Eagle emblem of the United Earth Federation. Commander Juno Ray approached him. "Sir, fleet production is at 60%, she reported. "The shipyards on Mars and Luna are ahead of schedule, but we still need more pilots." Hale turned slowly, his eyes steady. "We'll find them. Every human who can fly will answer the call." On Mars, the red deserts echoed with the roar of training jets. Commander Lena Torres, one of the best pilots in the Federation, stood before a group of new recruits. Her black flight suit was covered with dust, and her sharp eyes scanned the young faces before her. Many of them were barely 20. Some had never even left their homeworlds, but all of them carried the same look, determination mixed with fear. Torres spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the training field. "Listen to me. We are not fighting for conquest. We are not fighting for revenge. We are fighting for survival. For every child who will never see their parents again because of the Dravari." She paused, her expression softening for a moment. "My brother was on Vega Station when it fell. I never got to say goodbye, but I promised myself that the Dravari will never do this to another family again. Not while we can still fight." The recruits stood silent, their faces firm. Torres smiled slightly. Now get in those ships. You'll learn faster in the air than in the classroom. Moments later, the training sky filled with hundreds of small fighter jets, weaving and diving under the Martian sun. The sound of their engines echoed like thunder, a promise of the strength that humanity was building. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, human intelligence teams worked tirelessly to understand their new enemy. Spy drones and scout ships ventured into the border regions where human colonies had vanished. Most never came back, but one ship did, the scout vessel Horizon. It limped back into friendly space, its hull scarred and blackened. The crew was weak, but they carried a message. The footage they brought showed something terrifying. The Dravari fleets were vast, thousands of organic ships that looked alive, their surfaces pulsing like veins of a living creature. Each ship moved as if guided by a single mind. And surrounding them were fleets of smaller vessels, ships built by other species. The Dravari had enslaved entire races, forcing them to fight under their rule. Worlds once rich with life now floated as lifeless husks, drained of energy to feed their masters. When Admiral Hale watched the footage in the war room, he remained silent for a long moment. Then he turned to the other officers. They control the minds of their slaves, he said. That means if we free those slaves, the Dravari lose their strength. His officers nodded grimly. Commander Juno asked, "What about the enslaved fleets, sir? If they attack, do we fire?" Hale looked at the glowing images of captured ships, crews who were once free beings now forced to fight. "If they attack, we defend ourselves. But wherever possible, we free them. Humanity fights for life, not destruction." The days passed like lightning. The new fleet grew stronger. Giant hangars filled with fighters. Carriers loaded their squadrons. Engineers tested energy shields capable of withstanding the strange biological weapons of the Dravari. Humanity's scientists also worked without rest. In the laboratories of Luna Base, Dr. Ilandra Miles developed a new AI combat system named Aurora, capable of predicting enemy movements and adapting mid-battle. It was the result of hundreds of minds working together across multiple worlds. When Aurora was tested, it guided human drones to victory against a simulated Dravari swarm with unmatched precision. Admiral Hale immediately approved its use for the coming battles. "If the Dravari think we are slow," he said, "let's show them how fast humans can evolve." Soon the fleet began to gather at the staging area near the edge of Terran space. Thousands of ships formed into squadrons ready for the first major strike. From orbit, the view was breathtaking. Rows of warships stretched into the horizon, their engines glowing blue. Soldiers in armored suits marched through docking bays. The flags of every human world waved proudly in the artificial wind. The people called it the Armada of Unity. Before departure, Admiral Hale broadcasted one final message to every ship, every soldier, and every citizen listening across human space. "Today we stand together as one," he said. "We do not fight for power or greed. We fight because we have no choice. We fight for every world that has fallen silent. The Dravari think humanity is weak, but they forget who we are. We are the survivors of 1,000 storms. We built light in the darkness, and now the darkness will remember our name." Cheers erupted through the ships. Engineers saluted. Pilots raised their helmets. The fleet's engines roared to life. On Mars, Commander Torres stood by her fighter, staring at the sky. "It's time," she whispered. Her co-pilot, Lieutenant Jin, grinned nervously. "Do you think we'll really make a difference out there?" Torres looked at him and smiled softly. "Every life saved makes a difference. That's what we fight for." Their ship launched into space, joining the formation above the planet. From orbit, Mars glowed red beneath them, beautiful and distant. Ahead, thousands of ships waited for the signal to depart. As the fleet prepared to move, Hale received a final report. A long-range probe had reached the edge of Dravari territory. It sent back only one message before being destroyed. Countless fleets. Waiting. Hale studied the transmission quietly. The tension on the bridge was heavy. Finally, he said, "Then let them wait. Humanity is coming." He turned to his crew. "All ships set course for the Andromeda border. We will not wait for them to strike again. This time we take the fight to them." The fleet began to move. Engines ignited, lighting the dark like 1,000 new suns. The stars seemed to tremble as the human armada left the safety of their worlds and entered the unknown. People across Earth and the colonies watched the departure. Children waved at the sky. Families whispered prayers. Some wept quietly. But deep in their hearts, everyone felt pride. The news spread fast across the galaxy. Many alien races who had doubted humans now watched in awe. No other species had ever mobilized so quickly or so bravely. Some whispered, "The humans are marching to their doom." Others said, "Perhaps the humans are the galaxy's only hope." Far away in the dark reaches of space, the Dravari Queen felt the vibration of human engines through the void. Her mind stretched across the swarm of her children. "They come," she hissed, her voice echoing through the hive mind. "Let them come. Their fire will feed us." But deep inside the Queen's thoughts, a flicker of unease grew. She remembered ancient memories, battles from long ago when humans had stood against impossible odds. They had survived then. They had adapted. Perhaps, she thought, this species is more dangerous than I remember. Back aboard the UNS Resolute, Admiral Hale looked out at the stars. He thought of the fallen worlds, of the faces he could never save, and of the billions counting on him now. "History will judge us," he said quietly, "but not today. Today we fight." The great fleet accelerated, its engines blazing through the darkness. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled, not because of fear of the Dravari, but because humanity was moving. Humanity was coming. The human fleet entered the Andromeda border in perfect formation. Thousands of ships glided through the silent darkness, their engines glowing blue against the endless black. Each ship carried hundreds of brave souls, ready to fight for their world, their families, and the memory of those lost. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, watching the stars. Ahead of them lay the unknown, the frontier where dozens of human colonies had gone silent. The air inside the command center was heavy with tension, yet calm. Every officer knew that soon they would face the enemy for the first time. "Status report," Hale said quietly. "Fleet in full formation," Commander Juno Ray replied. "All systems ready. Fighters on standby. Long-range sensors detecting faint energy signals ahead." Hale looked out through the viewing glass. The stars twinkled softly, but something about them felt wrong. "Too still, too quiet. They know we're coming," he said at last. Moments later, the silence ended. Sensors screamed with alarms. Red lights flashed across the bridge. "Multiple contacts," shouted the radar officer. "Hundreds of signatures, closing fast." Hale's voice remained calm. "Dravari." "Yes, sir." Organic vessels confirmed. The enemy had arrived. From the void ahead, shapes began to appear, dark, shifting, alive. The Dravari Armada emerged from the shadows like a swarm of living nightmares. Their ships were not made of metal, but of flesh and bone-like armor. They pulsed with green and red light, each one moving as if breathing. The largest ship, a living fortress, opened its mouth-like structure, releasing a storm of smaller fighter organisms. The Dravari fleet spread wide, surrounding the human formation. For a brief second, the two great forces of the galaxy faced each other in total silence. Then Admiral Hale raised his hand. "All ships," he said, his voice firm and clear. "Fire at will." The darkness exploded into light. Thousands of plasma cannons and railguns unleashed fire at once. Bright blue beams and fiery burst cut through the void. Human ships advanced in tight formations, their coordination flawless. The Dravari answered with their own barrage, acidic plasma, organic missiles, and streams of burning light. The space between the fleets turned into a storm of destruction. A human cruiser was hit by a burst of acid fire, melting half its hull. Another ship, the UNS Horizon, lost power and drifted helplessly before exploding. The shockwave shook nearby vessels, but humanity did not break. Admiral Hale stood firm, calling orders. "Group 5, flank left. Shield units, cover the carriers. Focus all fire on the lead ship." The fleet obeyed instantly. Despite their losses, the human formation adjusted, moving with speed and precision. Every pilot knew their duty. Every ship fought as part of a single living machine, a unity of will. Meanwhile, Commander Lena Torres and her fighter squadron dove straight into the chaos. Her small ship, Falcon 1, led 12 others into the heart of the Dravari swarm. "Stay tight," she shouted through the comms. "Target their control nodes, the glowing areas on their hulls." The enemy ships twisted like serpents, firing blasts of green plasma. Torres rolled her fighter, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. She fired twin bursts from her cannons, hitting one of the glowing nodes. The creature ship exploded into pieces. "Good hit, Commander," her wingman called. Torres smiled faintly. Keep moving. Don't let them surround you. The squadron weaved through the battle like streaks of light, dodging, firing, and striking back. Their courage gave hope to everyone watching from the larger ships. Inside the command bridge of the Resolute, Hale watched the battle unfold on holographic screens. The Dravari were fierce, but they had one weakness. Their ships moved like parts of a single organism. If one section of the swarm broke, the rest faltered for a moment. Juno, Hale said, coordinate the fleet's AI with Aurora. I want every ship targeting those weak spots. Let's break their rhythm. The Aurora system activated instantly. Across the fleet, human targeting systems synced with the advanced AI. Within minutes, the tide began to change. Every time a Dravari ship was hit in a key area, nearby vessels hesitated or moved slower. The humans pressed forward, their fire becoming more accurate, more deadly. Now, Hale commanded. Push through their center. The battle turned fierce. The Resolute led the charge, firing its main plasma cannon. The shot pierced through the Dravari command vessel, breaking it apart in a burst of green fire. For the first time in centuries, the Dravari screamed in pain across the psychic network that connected their ships. The sound echoed through space, silent but felt in every mind. The human fleet advanced, pushing the enemy back. But victory came at a cost. A Dravari cruiser rammed into the human carrier UNS Dauntless, tearing through its hull. The explosion was so bright that even ships miles away were momentarily blinded. Hale closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, his resolve unshaken. Record their names, he said softly. No one dies forgotten. Commander Torres and her team fought near the remains of the carrier. Her squadron was down to 7 ships now. We can't hold much longer, Admiral, she reported. Understood, Hale replied. Pull back to the Resolute. We're finishing this. The Resolute's engines roared as it moved forward, leading the final assault. All ships focused their fire on the Dravari flagship, the massive living fortress that had commanded the enemy fleet. Concentrate all firepower. Hale shouted. Beams of energy tore into the creature's armor. The fortress writhed and screamed, sending shockwaves through space. Then its core began to glow red-hot. Brace for detonation, Juno shouted. The Dravari flagship exploded, a massive burst of light that turned night into day. For a long moment, everything went silent. When the smoke cleared, the stars returned. The human fleet floated among drifting debris and fading fire. The enemy was gone. They had won. On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew cheered, some crying, others silent with disbelief. Commander Juno smiled for the first time in weeks. We did it, she said. Hale nodded slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes carried deep sadness. We won this battle, he said quietly. But the war is far from over. He looked at the screen showing the battlefield, wrecks of both Dravari and human ships floating together. Tell the fleet to begin rescue operations. No one gets left behind. News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in generations, the Dravari had been defeated in open battle, and by humans. On alien worlds, beings who had once doubted humanity now watched with awe. The message spread fast. The humans fought the monsters and won. Small rebellions began on worlds enslaved by the Dravari. Hope returned to species who had lived in darkness for centuries. Across human space, people celebrated, but not with joy alone. It was pride mixed with sorrow, for the cost had been heavy. Thousands of soldiers would never return. Commander Torres stood in the hangar, looking at the names being engraved on a metal wall. Her team had lost 5 good pilots. She whispered softly, You kept your promise, brother. We fought back. That night, in the command quarters of the Resolute, Admiral Hale recorded a message for the Galactic Council. This battle proves that the Dravari can be defeated, he said. But this was only one fleet. There are many more waiting in the dark. Humanity cannot stand alone forever. The Council must decide, will you join us or will you wait until they reach your worlds? He paused for a moment, then added quietly, We will keep fighting either way. The message ended and Hale turned off the recorder. Outside his window, the stars glimmered faintly. He could still see the distant wreckage of the Dravari ships, their lights fading like dying embers. He whispered to himself, For every world that fell silent, we've spoken back with fire. In the darkness beyond Andromeda, the Dravari queen stirred again. Through her hive mind, she felt the pain of her lost children. Her eyes glowed with fury. "So they remember how to fight," she whispered. "Then they will learn what it means to face the full strength of the Dravari." Her command pulsed through the swarm. Thousands of new ships began to awaken in the shadows of dying stars. The next wave was already forming, but across the galaxy, the name humanity had begun to spread, spoken not in fear but in hope. For the first time in ages, the galaxy believed that the Dravari could be stopped, and all because one species refused to surrender. The human fleet had pushed the Dravari back in Andromeda, but victory came at a price. Many ships had been destroyed and countless brave souls had fallen. The fleet gathered near the edge of human-controlled space to repair, regroup, and plan the next strike. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, staring at the star-filled void. The sensor readouts showed strange anomalies. Near the core system, the heart of the Dravari Empire. Reports confirm entire worlds drained of life, said Commander Juno Ray. Energy readings suggest massive weapons are being fueled there. Hale's jaw tightened. If the Dravari are building more fleets, we can't wait for them to strike again. We have to take the fight to them. The fleet commanders nodded. Everyone understood the risk. The core was heavily defended. Entering it would be dangerous, almost suicidal. But no one questioned Hale's plan. Humanity was not a species to wait in fear. In the briefing hall of the Resolute, scientists and strategists gathered to plan the assault. One of the freed aliens, a scientist named Karen, had joined the fleet. His skin was silver blue and his eyes glimmered like molten metal. The Dravari Queen resides at the center of a dying star, Karen explained. She controls every fleet from there. If she falls, the entire Dominion will collapse. Juno's eyes widened. So if we strike the Queen directly, we could end this war? Karen nodded. Yes, but her defenses are unmatched. She has organic shields, fleets of loyal followers, and traps in orbit around the star. Only a small, highly trained team can reach her. Hale leaned back, thinking. Then that team will be us. The main fleet will provide support and distraction, while a task force enters the core system and strikes at the Queen herself. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the enormity of the mission. Commander Lena Torres volunteered immediately. "I'm going with the strike team," she said firmly. "I've lost too much already to stay behind." Hale studied her, then nodded. "You'll lead the squadron through the inner defenses. Your skills will give us the edge." Torres' team was small but elite. Veteran pilots, engineers, and soldiers, each one experienced in combat and strategy. They trained for days, running simulations and preparing for every possible scenario. Every pilot knew the stakes. If they failed, countless worlds would fall silent forever. Even as the fleet moved toward the core, the human crews carried hope. Each ship was more than metal and engines. It was a symbol of defiance. Across the fleet, people whispered the same thought: "We will not let the darkness win." When the fleet approached the outer defenses of the core system, the first signs of danger appeared. Massive energy barriers pulsed around several planets, and smaller Dravari fleets patrolled the area like sharks in water. Admiral Hale called a meeting with his captains. "We will not engage the entire enemy head-on," he said. "We divide into 3 groups. Group Alpha will engage from the north, Group Beta from the south, and the task force will sneak through the core's inner defenses to reach the Queen. Timing is critical. If any group fails, the mission fails." The captains nodded, fully aware of the stakes. The first wave of battle was brutal. Dravari cruisers swarmed the outer defenses, launching acidic plasma and living projectiles. Human shields held for a time, but several ships were torn apart. Commander Torres led her small squadron through a narrow gap between 2 massive energy barriers. Their ships twisted and rolled to avoid fire, weaving through the deadly currents of energy. "This is it," she said through the comms, her voice calm but firm. "We get through or none of us make it." Her team followed perfectly, trusting her instinct. They dodged a barrage of green plasma blasts and narrowly avoided collisions with drifting wrecks. For a moment it seemed the enemy knew their every move, anticipating their path. But humans were unpredictable. They adjusted, adapted, and pressed forward with courage and precision. Inside the fleet's main forces, Admiral Hale coordinated attacks. Using the Aurora AI, every human ship was synchronized to exploit weaknesses in the Dravari formation. The enemy was strong but not invincible. Every hit, every maneuver, was calculated to weaken the defenses for Torres's task force. Meanwhile, the rescued alien fleets joined the fight. Once enslaved by the Dravari, their loyalty to humanity was unbreakable. Their ships fired with desperation, attacking the enemy's flanks and helping to distract the Dravari Queen's attention. Hale watched from the bridge as the plan unfolded perfectly. "Hold steady," he said. "Every ship here is a part of the strike. Every life matters." After days of careful movement, Torres's task force reached the inner defenses. The star itself pulsed violently, and the Queen's presence could be felt as a psychic pressure pressing against their minds. Every crew member felt it. A creeping fear that tried to slow their hearts, cloud their thoughts. Torres gritted her teeth. "Focus," she said. "Fear is the enemy's weapon. Ignore it." They maneuvered through the dense swarm of living ships, dodging tentacle-like structures and bursts of bioplasma. Each step forward was a battle, each shot precise. Even as the Queen's psychic influence tried to distract them, the human squadron pressed onward, their determination stronger than any fear. They were not just soldiers. They were humanity itself, carrying the will of billions across the stars. As they approached the dying star where the Queen resided, Karen's guidance became critical. "Aim for the core," he advised. "The Queen's organic shields protect the outside, but the heart of the hive is vulnerable." Torres nodded, feeling the weight of the mission. "Prepare the charges," she said. Her squadron loaded energy disruptors into the small assault vessels, knowing that success meant destroying the Queen. Failure meant death. From the outer fleet, Hale watched the operation with bated breath. Every human ship formed a shielded perimeter around the inner task force, ready to fire on any Dravari reinforcements. For the first time in centuries, humans were facing the very heart of the enemy, and they were not afraid. At the edge of the Queen's chamber, Torres' squadron fought through a final line of elite Dravari guardians. Ships twisted and dodged as the battle reached its peak. One of Torres' wingmen was hit and forced to retreat, but others pressed forward, knowing the mission was bigger than any single life. The Queen's psychic presence surged, filling the minds of the pilots with memories of lost worlds, screams, and despair. Torres felt her own fear rising, but she clenched her fists, pushing it back. "This ends now," she whispered. "We fight for everyone." The squadron launched their charges into the heart of the star. The energy disruptors tore through the Queen's shields, reaching her core. The psychic screams of the hive echoed across space as the star pulsed violently, its light turning red. Back in the main fleet, Hale watched the readings spike. "She's reacting," he said. "Hold your positions. Do not fire until we confirm the strike." Then, in a sudden explosion of light, the star erupted. The Queen's hive mind shattered in a cascade of energy and flame. The Dravari fleet scattered, confused and leaderless. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago went silent, drifting lifelessly across space. A wave of relief and awe swept through the human forces. For the first time, victory felt possible. Commander Torres and her team emerged from the wreckage, battered but alive. "We did it," she said, voice trembling. Her eyes scanned the dark space around the shattered star. "The Queen, she's gone." Hale's voice came through the comms. "You've done what was thought impossible. Humanity owes you everything." The fleet began rescue and recovery operations, collecting survivors from both human and freed alien ships. The cost had been high, but hope now burned brighter than ever. Across human space, news of the Queen's defeat spread like wildfire. Species enslaved by the Dravari celebrated. Races long oppressed began to plan their freedom. And humans, for the first time in decades, could breathe and know that their bravery had changed the galaxy. Even as the fleet prepared to move onward, Hale knew the war was not over. There were still Dravari remnants scattered across space, but now humanity had proven something undeniable. They could face the darkness and survive. For the first time, the galaxy had seen the strength of humans, not just as soldiers but as a species united in courage, will, and hope. Hale looked at the stars, remembering the fallen colonies, the lost lives and the friends who had died. He whispered quietly, "We've struck at the heart, but we fight for every world, every life. Humanity will not stop until the galaxy is free." The human fleet moved onward, leaving behind a trail of fire and hope. The shadows of the core had been pierced, and the light of humanity shone brighter than ever. The battle had reached its final stage. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, hovered near the core system. Stars glimmered through the blackness, distant and cold yet full of promise. Every ship carried the weight of countless lives, memories of fallen friends and the hope of the galaxy. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, looking at the formation. The enemy had been weakened, but remnants of the Dravari remained. Their organic ships drifted in clusters, confused without the Queen's guidance. Yet they were still dangerous, living weapons unpredictable and deadly. "Status report," Hale commanded. Commander Juno Ray spoke with calm urgency. "Enemy fleets are regrouping, sir. Smaller groups are attempting to break through our lines." Hale nodded. "All ships maintain formation. Fighters, intercept the stragglers. We finish this today, or we lose the chance forever." In the outer squadrons, Commander Lena Torres led her team with precision. Falcon 1 weaved through the chaos of drifting Dravari ships. Each pilot moved like part of a single organism, coordinated and fearless. "Stay focused," Torres said through the comms. "We don't just fight for ourselves. We fight for everyone who can't." Her squadron cleared a path for the main fleet to approach the heart of the core system. The enemy's last defenses pulsed with strange energy, alive and dangerous. But humans had learned to fight unpredictably. They were not just reacting. They were thinking, adapting, and striking where the enemy was weakest. The UNS Resolute advanced toward the largest cluster of Dravari ships. Hale stood tall, hand resting lightly on the rail, as if the weight of the galaxy itself pressed upon him. "Open fire," he said. Plasma cannons flared across the void, cutting through the organic armor of the Dravari. Explosions blossomed like stars being born and dying in the same instant. Ships twisted and fell, some melting into the darkness, others scattering fragments of alien metal and flesh across space. The humans fought with courage born of desperation. They had lost so much, yet every pilot, soldier, and engineer knew one thing clearly: failure was not an option. In the chaos, Torres' squadron navigated a dangerous path toward the Dravari flagship, the last massive vessel still commanding the remaining enemy forces. The ship was grotesque and enormous, its surface pulsing with veins of living energy. "Target the control nodes," Torres ordered. "Hit every weak point we can find." They dodged green plasma streams, twisted tentacles, and organic flares. One fighter was struck directly, exploding into sparks that drifted like fireflies. Torres felt her heart tighten, but she pushed onward, leading the squadron with calm precision. "Hold the line," she said. "We're almost there." Inside the flagship, the Dravari commander, the last surviving lieutenant of the fallen queen, sensed the humans' approach. The swarm trembled under the psychic shock of its loss. Confusion spread through the fleet like wildfire. Ships turned in erratic patterns, some colliding with others, many breaking apart from internal conflicts. Hale noticed the change immediately. "They're faltering," he said. "Push forward. This is our chance." The main fleet pressed the attack, synchronized perfectly by the Aurora AI system. Every shot, every maneuver, every strike was calculated with unmatched precision. Humans had learned from every battle, every loss, and every mistake. They were unstoppable because they adapted faster than any living enemy. The Dravari flagship twisted in the void, trying to escape the concentrated fire. Torres saw the glowing core, the vital heart of the vessel. "We've got it," she said. The squadron focused all their firepower, striking the core from multiple directions. The hull split and fractured. Energy exploded outward in waves that rippled through nearby ships. Hale gave the final command. "All power to the main cannon. Target the flagship's core." The Resolute's plasma cannon fired. The shot pierced the heart of the vessel, and a blinding explosion consumed the enemy flagship. The psychic scream of the Dravari echoed across the void, a sound that shook every mind attuned to it. Then silence. For a moment, nothing moved. The debris of enemy ships floated in scattered patterns. The surviving Dravari vessels drifted aimlessly, leaderless and powerless. Humans held formation, scanning for signs of further attacks. But there were none. The galaxy had seen something it would never forget. The human fleet had faced the Dravari, and they had won. Torres' squadron regrouped, battered but alive. "We did it," she said quietly. Her eyes scanned the dark expanse. "It's over." Hale spoke across the comms to every ship in the fleet. "Attention all units. Report status." One by one, officers replied. Ships damaged but operational. Fighters returning. Survivors rescued. The fleet had survived and triumphed. Hale allowed himself a small smile. Humanity has fought impossible odds, and we've prevailed. Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. Worlds once enslaved by the Dravari celebrated. Races that had lived in fear for centuries finally saw hope. Alien leaders who had doubted humanity now bowed in respect. The name human carried weight across the stars. Not as a predator, not as a conqueror, but as a species that fought with courage, unity, and unwavering will. Children on Earth looked up at the stars and imagined the fleet returning home. Families on Mars, Luna, and Titan wept quietly in relief. Humanity had survived. Humanity had proven its strength. Hale walked the deck of the Resolute, his mind heavy with memories of fallen comrades. "We came for vengeance," he whispered, "but we gave the galaxy hope." Commander Juno approached. "Sir, the crews are asking for orders." "What now?" Hale looked at the stars. "Now we make sure this victory lasts. We help the freed worlds rebuild. We protect the galaxy, and we never forget what it cost us to reach this day." On the bridge, the sensor screens showed drifting remnants of Dravari ships. Engineers began repairs. Medical teams worked on the wounded, and pilots cleaned their equipment. Every human on the fleet knew that peace would be a long journey, but for the first time it seemed possible. Torres stood beside Hale. "Do you think the Dravari will return?" she asked. Hale shook his head slowly. "Not in this form. They were strong, but we've proven something today. When humans rise together, no force in the galaxy can stand against us. The galaxy will remember today, the day the humans refused to be silent. Even the freed alien fleets joined in celebration. Ships once enslaved now flew alongside humans, their banners waving proudly in unity. Generals and leaders of other species sent messages of gratitude. Karen, the alien scientist, looked at Hale. "I never thought my people would see freedom again," he said. "But humans made it happen," Hale nodded. "We fight for life, not glory. That is what makes humanity strong." As the fleet moved back toward friendly space, the stars seemed brighter than ever. Planets long silent would hear the voice of humanity again. Trade routes would reopen. Families would reunite. Children would grow under safe skies. And somewhere across the dark void, the Dravari remained only as echoes, remnants of a power that had been challenged and defeated. For the first time in generations, the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief. In the final moments aboard the Resolute, Hale stood at the viewing deck. The sun rose over the distant horizon of a liberated world, casting golden light across the fleet. "History will remember this day," he said softly, "not for the battles or the ships, but for what humanity showed the galaxy: courage, unity, and the will to protect life." The silver eagle emblem of the United Earth Federation shone on every hull, every flag, every uniform. The message was clear across the stars: humanity is a force to be reckoned with. Humanity never surrenders. Humanity rises always, and across 1,000 worlds the message echoed. The Armadas fell silent. Because humanity spoke with fire, the galaxy remembered. Humanity remembered, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, carrying the light of a species that had refused to bow. The day was won. The galaxy was free, and humanity had proven once and for all that even against the darkest odds, hope, courage, and unity could triumph.